Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. On this week's show, we are going to recap the AIGA Championship for 2025. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, my co-host,
Miranda.
How you doing, Miranda?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. So, AIGA happened last week. We wanted to actually give it some time because we looked at the lineup last week, and there was not a lot of advertising, at least on the U.S. side, that we saw. We looked at the matchups and went, wow, this was a crazy tournament. This is absolutely the highest level of people that we have had at an AIGA since AIGA has been running. They always field good talent. Usually it's like a couple of teams are good. There's sporadic names that are really, really good and top level and world level and elite. This one, every team was chocked full of elite people. So we decided, hey, let's push it a week. Let's give it a chance to watch. There were 55 matches that took place over 2 days. I think both events are about 17 hours in total. The matches are a lot less, or not quite 17 hours, but it is two very long events.
It went long enough that Rusing, Kendall actually had to leave like before the last two matches happened
to make a flight
home.
Yeah, it was a very long event. Again, it's on YouTube. Genuinely and really, really fun event to watch.
The other thing that's amazing is if you go in the comments of YouTube, not the comments, in
the description
on YouTube, it gives you little like time points for each match, so you can find all your matches.
Again, apologies to everyone listening to this show. I know we've had a couple of people for a couple of years now that have been commenting for us to add timestamps. We used to add timestamps way back in the day when the editing pipeline of the show was a little different. It was a lot easier to do because we now do this show in one giant take.
Yeah.
And it comes out in it's almost 8 p.m. on Monday. Right now, the show will be live in essentially 4.5 hours. By the time we finish recording this, the show goes out in about 2 hours after that. There is not the time for me to put timestamps together. So apologies for not getting this show timestamps, but because AIGA is a really good promotion.
But doesn't Google timestamp us?
They do, but it takes a couple months.
Oh, okay.
Because it has to transcribe the video and then it'll add timestamps in.
Shit.
And occasionally I'll go back and add timestamps to old shows. But it is a large effort to do that with the way that we edit the podcast. So again, that's a peek behind the curtain. But AIGA, you can go and click every single match.
Yeah.
But I love what they did for the timestamps, it is not the walkout.
No,
it is the start of the match.
It's the start of the match.
Click back and forth, and it is awesome. And they have I remember, so we were talking about this, covering this last week. We got to watching it this week, and I went into day one. I was like, okay, there's there's a lot of really good matches here. Okay, let's pick 10 of the matches to cover because there's 55 matches in total. We're just not going to be able to do that. If you want to hear us cover 32 matches in a row, listen to the first episode of the show. It's Josh and I breaking down the entire Fight to Win 52 card, and it is us going through every single match. And after we finished that show, we went, cool, that's not the way to do this podcast. And actually, please don't download episode 1. It is not reflective of what the show is now, but we've changed the format of the show to not basically do play-by-play of every single match. Watch day 1. I was like, oh, this is actually really good. I'm amped to cover this on the show. Clicked on day 2. And I was like, awesome, I'm going to watch the select matches from this that I'm going to watch. Turned on the event video and then just started watching and went, okay, I can't skip a lot of these matches. Oh, it's Roberto Jimenez. Oh, it's Giancarlo.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Big Dan. Oh, it's Oliver Taja. Oh, it's Junior Casio.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Kenta Iwamoto.
Yeah.
Oh, it's every single match of day 2 essentially is a big name guy versus either a big name guy or another guy that you're like, this will be an interesting match or a benchmarking match, or I'm curious how this goes. Day 2 is 9 hours and 52 minutes.
Yeah.
Of that, I think the first 30 or so minutes is filler and opening, and the last 45. So really 7 hours.
Well,
6.5
and then
hours of matches.
every once in a while they have a little they bring the entire team out to the stage.
And when they change teams, they bring the whole and they announce the whole teams out. So there is some time but that's why the timestamps are great. And you can watch a match, click to the next match. It's it was a great viewing experience. And also with YouTube, what I liked is I could click it on like with premium, like 4x speed for certain sections and like go through and then tab back. And then it's just a great viewing experience.
The other thing is they also had multiple cameras, though they weren't showing you the multiple different directions. But every once in a while when something would happen, they'd show you from another angle.
They'd cut to a replay camera
And I
that
was
was like, where was that camera earlier?
Yeah.
But that's it.
Yeah.
I do like because it makes a nice consistent broadcast where you're not swapping between like different sides. It's a really common thing in sports broadcasting where you typically, like soccer and football, like field sports.
Yeah.
You typically, most of your cameras are on the same side of the action for the broadcast, so you don't get confused. Like, hey, why are the guys going the different direction now?
Yeah.
And a lot of jiu-jitsu sometimes doesn't keep to that rule, and so you're like you flip back and forth, which is less of a problem in combat sports because you're kind of used to it in combat sports. There's only two guys most of the time.
Yeah.
But AIGA kind of had that same thing, so most of the time you were seeing it from stage front.
Yeah.
And there was a side angle as well. Yeah. And generally speaking, the camera work was good. They also had what I call the Muay Thai camera, which is that camera that's way up in the stands, that's kind of zoomed in down on the action.
Oh yeah.
And I personally really like that camera. I've watched a lot of Muay Thai events over the years that just have that like down old school camera. It's usually for Muay Thai events, it's like a static camera.
Yeah.
This one moved around. It was good. It was a lot of fun. So that was me kind of gushing the event. It's free on YouTube. You should watch it. There are absolutely world level guys on this event that are playing interesting games in a kind of interesting format. This AIGA, because it is the championship event, had heel hooks in it. AIGA has a different set of rules for different events. It is a team-based event format, kind of like Polaris squads, not like quintet. Your goal is to either win by submission. It's 3 rounds. Ooh, man, I'm butchering this. 3 round per person. So you field a team of people at like 60 kilograms, 70 kilograms, like up the weights.
So you have 7 people per team.
Yes.
And then you have different weights in each team. And then you have like substitutions also.
Yeah, for instance, like Oliver Taza went up a weight class to compete against Jaworski. You essentially, if your guy wins his matchup, whatever matchup it is, your team gets a point.
Yeah.
If your guy loses, the other team gets a point. And it's at the end of enough of your matchups, it's the first of like essentially 4. Yeah. Usually is what it is because there's 7 matchups in total across all of the weights for your team. You move on, and there's multiple teams. There's Team Leon, Team Williams Elite, there's Universal Fighters, Team Kasai. Is that it? I thought there was another team I'm missing. Oh, Team Battle Force was here. Team Eurotrash was here.
Which is the greatest name ever.
It was a really fun. I saw it on the back of the jersey, and I went, why does Hanky Julius have Eurotrash? Oh, that's their team. Oh, that is their team name. Yeah. Which I appreciate. It was fun. So that's how the format works. Day 1, it's essentially a kind of like a bracket. Yeah. And then people are eliminated, and then day 2, it's just the winning teams from day 1 that go on. Kind of a complicated format. I don't really as much care about talking about the format of the event. Yeah. It's interesting for how it runs. I think it makes some really interesting matchups. There are a lot of matches. There are 55 matches across this event. Yeah. What we are going to do is we are going to run through essentially the highlight moments and matches that we like want to talk about because, again, the show will be super, super long. You can go watch these matches yourself on YouTube. They're free. There were some interesting kind of story beats and points here that we do want to talk about. So that's how we're going to do it. It will be a little more piecemeal than usually how we do these shows. If you've ever listened to a live ADCC show that we do, or like a CJI show.
Well, the live ADCC shows are also a little different.
Those are usually after like 8 or 15 hours of events and stuff, and we've live.
And we're tired, and we've been drinking. And
there's usually those shows too. Yeah. This is going to run a little bit similar to that, where we're not going to go through every match and do play-by-play. We're not drinking. We're just going to go through big moments. And really what I want to talk about here is a couple of big moments, and also just some interesting matchups and some things that we saw from certain grapplers in this that I just think are like interesting points for either the development of game or consistency of game or consistency of rule set or level of preparation going into this event. One thing that I thought was really interesting overall for this event is we have a lot of guys in here. We have a lot of ADCC champions. We have a lot of guys here that we see in ADCC.
Yeah.
Very top of the heap in submission grappling, some of the best guys in the world. We've talked about it a little bit before on the show, but people get into special shape for ADCC and for IBJJF Worlds, or for trials too. You see a level.
IBJJF Worlds not so much because well,
they test now.
Yeah, you're peeing in a cup.
We've talked about it when we talk about a lot of events. Like if you beat a guy, like for instance, random promoter puts together random super fight. Yeah. This guy beat that guy. It's like, it was a random one-off super fight that they got paid to do. Versus if you beat a guy at trials or at the World Championships or 80s, like those, in my eyes, and just those, you prepared to be in your peak excellent form for those tournaments and events, you're going to get the best level of guy. Like, for instance, Giancarlo Bodoni looks like a different dude come time to win ADCC. Yeah. Like, you see him versus, like, Pedro Marinho, who's number one. It's like, it's like not the same guy. You see him here, not quite the same guy. You see that dude come to ADCC, it's like, good man. I don't care what you knew about Bodoni. That's a different dude. So, and same with Kyan Duarte. Like, Kyan Duarte can have, like, kind of flat performances here and there. Who's number one or fight best invitational. Maybe at AIGA, like, kind of had an iffy performance, but I want to talk about that match one of those matches specifically here. Come ADCC, that guy's ready to win and beats everyone. And so,
which is wild because this is like $1 million.
Is it US dollars?
No, but I think it was like
it was a $500,000. I think is what the equivalent was. It was a big tournament, but it's across all the people as well. It's a huge cash prize, which kind of makes the Jason Knolf slam even crazier to me. I would be pissed. I thought about that. We talked about that a little bit last week. So Jason Knolf slams Pato.
The second time he slams him. Because the first time they say that it's okay because he's in his submission, but he's not.
He's not. He has an overhook.
And he's not. And then the second time, like, he legitimately walks up to, like, is it Pato's team or he walks up to his own team?
He walks up to his own team. They're like, don't slam.
And then he's talking to them and just freaking slams them.
It was like, it was a very interesting. We talked about it last week, but in watching now the whole event with the context and also thinking about like how much money is on the line and how much that match probably matters. Honestly, it was. I don't think that Knolf was going to win that match anyway.
No,
but still, it was like to guarantee you lose the match was a really interesting strategy.
Maybe he'd rather lose that way than being like subbed.
No, man, but like from your team perspective, hey, man, I'm not going to get paid.
Yeah.
Because you wanted to lose a different way. You guarantee you lose now, as opposed to maybe you pull some, maybe, you catch something. You're a great wrestler. Maybe you have a moment here where you can get one over. Like, there's an option, there's a chance, versus you, like, getting DQ'd. Cool. Like, you just lose the match. It was just as I've thought about it over the week, I'm like, man, I would be really a little upset if I was his teammates there in that decision-making process now. Because, like, a one-off match for yourself, hey, man, that's totally fine. That's, you do what you do. But in a team event, like, you're now affecting everyone's prize pool. It makes it a little more interesting. So, we've sort of talked through this enough. You have some notes up here at the top end. Oh yeah, news this week: Johnny Grippo is going versus Owen Jones, who's number one.
Allegedly, so they announced Owen Jones, and they were like, "Who do you want to go against Owen Jones?" And allegedly, Grippo was like talking shit.
I thought Jones was talking shit.
I don't know. One of them was talking
Somebody was talking shit.
Somebody was talking shit to each other.
And I went, look, man, I don't care who was talking shit. I am kind of excited for that matchup. And it's a pretty exciting matchup because it's the veteran versus the young up-and-comer in a way that I love, where it's like Grippo has the acumen to, like, put some problems for Owen, but Owen also has the, hey, man, fuck it, I'm like 23.
Yeah.
And, like, a gangster and real good at no-gi can absolutely, like, that's good matchmaking. Yeah. And they also, if guys have beef against each other, like, that's even better matchmaking. I'm amped for it. And then we have the third woman for the CJI bracket, Anna Carolina Vieira.
Yep.
So we have one more one will be announced for CJI. It will be exciting. Let's see, Miranda, you want to go through your? Did I cover that, or do you want to run through some of those notes there?
No, that was just how, like, they. So in AIGA, your first 2 minutes are unscored unless you get a takedown. Takedowns are scored in your first 2 minutes.
Which I kind of think is really, it's like the opposite of ADCC almost.
Well, it makes people not want to, it's interesting, and they can be scored for 2 points or 4 points. If it's clean takedown, it's 4 points.
Which is if you get past the guard.
Yeah.
So you take down into the guard, any sort of guard whatsoever is 2 outside, which I really like that rule because it incentivizes you to go for bigger takedowns and actually it actually rewards you. People talked about for years in like regular grappling, and like other rule sets where it's like, yeah, man, I do this big takedown. I should end up in the guard because I get points for passing the guard versus like, and there's still an argument where, hey, takedown's 2 points versus a guard pass is 3 points.
It also incentivizes you to actually try takedowns because you get points. Like it.
Early in the match, but it also incentivizes you if you don't want to have points scored on you to kind of play defensively. It goes either way. I didn't hate it for this event. Honestly, overall, I was really happy with the level of activity in everyone in this event. I don't know what they told guys. I don't know how they decided to do this.
Because they ran like almost like shot clocks. Like they do in wrestling.
Yeah, I saw that come up a couple times.
They'd pop up a shot clock, and it was like 20, and it's not a shot clock, it's activity.
It's a stalling call, essentially.
Yeah.
And they really kept guys active. There's only a couple of matches, but I saw it's a little yellow box that pops up on Smooth Comp next to the fighter's name. Whatever they did, man, other events need to look at who's number one.
Yeah.
Needs to look at this and implement some stuff because we have a level. We have two things you want to see in a grappling event. Super high level of talent and lots of submissions and guys going for good shit.
Yeah.
That is uncommon. That's kind of why people love ADCC so much because like it's a relatively open tournament. If you want to win your spot, you can get in. So there's no excuse. And generally speaking, you get big highlight reels, submissions from the best guys in the world. That's why it works so well. AIGA, they delivered here, man.
Yeah. So it's 3 rounds. If you win a round by points, your points don't follow you. Just the winning of the round follows you, if that makes any sense. So, like if 2 rounds go 0-0, but 1 round such and so wins by 6 points, it's not like they add they're not like 6 points to 0 points. They don't like add your cumulative points. Right.
Yeah, you win each round individually.
And even if it's a 0-0, the judges have to pick who they win.
Yeah, so you can still win on 1 round on points and still lose the other 2 rounds on nothing. Which I don't remember that happening. Typically the person that would score for the matches that, again, 55 matches. Yeah. There's a lot that happened last weekend. I don't recall anyone not winning that won if it was even like 2 even rounds with 0-0 and then 1 round there was no round.
There was none that generally went like there were some really close matches, but there was always somebody who definitely was on top. The order of the matches was determined in the beginning by the manager and the coaches. They literally had these cards with like what their weights were. And so before the teams would separate, they would come out on the stage and they would announce everybody. And the coaches would go to the middle, and then they had these cards, and they had to pick which card they wanted to like uncover first, and that was what match went first. So no one knew the order of the matches.
Because it wasn't like you're 66 or you're 77. It wasn't like order. It was like it keeps it a little random and exciting.
Yeah, it was like a wrestling duel where you have 2 teams that go against each other, but it was set up that it could be anybody goes first.
Yeah. I think the format works. Yeah. I was surprised. We've covered AIGA before. And every time I'm surprised because there's a lot of hooks that other events will kind of try. Yeah. That I think AIGA does really well. And it makes the whole event feel special and interesting.
I want to say they also do something stupid, like if you miss weight, you start like down on points or something like that.
Oh, that happened. That came up last time. I forget who missed weight.
Well, there's one guy that misses weight every single time, and so he always starts out like 6 points under, and then winds up like making them back.
And he wins it. Yeah, he wasn't in this event.
I don't think so.
He was in the last event.
Yeah,
though.
I think everybody was fine, but yeah, I think they do a lot. So whatever they're doing is right. And there were no tackets at
Andrew Tackett, William Tackett, because we think.
No,
sure.
they said.
Oh no, because Andrew now is the champion of UFC.
So they said
UFC champion.
They said that their contracts say they are not allowed to participate in other activities, which means no CGI.
In other activities,
no CGI. No, no, nothing.
Oh, I'm disappointed
And
about
the one
that.
contracts, which means the Rotolos.
The Rotolos were allowed to, though.
Yeah.
In their contracts, I think it says the same thing.
Yeah.
But I think they were granted special permission because CGI, one actually promoted CGI a little bit when Cade won.
Yeah.
And they were like, I was in it. And one actually made some posts about Cade being in this tournament, which was very uncommon, but UFC is not interested in
You
doing
always
that.
take a little bit of what Craig Jones says with a grain of salt because I never know if he's actually telling the truth or if he's just telling you a good story. But he swears that they offered him the match against Mikey initially to be the other coach.
And Mikey, I don't think Mikey's refuted that.
And he said no because of his scheduling and everything. And after that, they basically said, well, none of our athletes are allowed to do CJI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't, but also it wouldn't surprise me if it would surprise me if they were allowed, even regardless of that interaction, had been allowed to. Like UFC is very notorious for, hey man, if you are in an MMA contract with the UFC, you cannot do anything else. The grappling for the MMA fighters can do grappling if they are allowed to.
Yeah.
But if you have a grappling contract with the UFC, I would be surprised if they would let you go and grapple for another organization, especially as the UFC champion. Like, I don't like it, but it would surprise me if they would suddenly change their business model from what they've done in MMA for 25 years or 30 years almost at this point into, into grappling.
So they weren't tackets there.
Yep.
And then some of the teams got changed around because of flights, because I guess there were some people that had flights to the Middle East that were not flying.
That will do it.
That'll happen to you.
Let's see. So, Miranda, how do we want to do? We've kind of talked about how we want to do it. How do you want to do this? There is a ton to cover.
I don't know. I have my
There's so many matches.
I have my random notes. So how about we do this? We're going to look at matches. If we want to talk about them, we're going to talk about them. I'm going to add in my weird notes, and we're going to go from there.
So I don't, for this one, personally, for how I like grappling, I'm not as concerned with the teams.
Okay.
So we may or may not say, like, this was Team Acai Republic versus Team Leon, or like, this is...
Yeah.
I think I'm just going to talk about matches, because for me, that is the more interesting thing of, like... Because teams change.
Yeah.
Guys, like, there is nobody's out of, the gym Acai Republic, or the gym Leon, or Leon does have a gym, but...
They do
the
in,
Kasai
in
gym.
Bali, right? Isn't it in Bali?
I think so.
I think it's in the...
It's in a nice place.
It's in the Pacific Islands.
But, like, no one is out of the gym Eurotrash.
No.
Like, it's a whole collection of guys. So teams change. So I want to talk about the matchups. Let's kick it off. We had, let's see. Day one. This gets complicated.
So you had...
DeAndre Corbe beats Christopher Han via a real quick armbar. And you were like, you're always curious what shape guys come into, and you're like, DeAndre Corbe is in this shape.
Yes.
Okay, he's in ready to go, ready to fight for it shape. Devontae Johnson hits a arm and rear naked choke win over Marcio Rulio, and I went, Devontae Johnson. It's like, it might be a tournament where we see a level, because Devontae has these tournaments sometimes. It might be a tournament where we see an increased level of activity out of Devontae, especially with that shot clock. So I watched this match of Devontae, and I went, Pedro Marinho is also in this tournament. I am very curious if he will also have, because again, both Devontae and Pedro Marinho and Elder Cruz are three guys that we always talk about.
Pedro Marinho in one of the matches towards the end, Jesus, I've never seen that man jump at people more than I've ever.
Dude, he was going, but something about that AIGA rule set, or what they tell him in the back, or something about it, I went, Devontae and Pedro are moving in a way that is uncommon. Not that they can't do it, but when a rule set doesn't push them to do it, they don't do it. And Devontae, we saw these bursts from Devontae that have sometimes been few and far between, depending on the tournament. And I was just very, very pleased about it. Because again, it shows off the anti-sale. He has good submissions when he is forced to go for them. And he does. Kenta Iwamoto defeats Alexander De Jesus via heel hook. Kenta is a really funny guy in this tournament, because his wrestling is low-key pretty good. He had a match
It's always been low-key good.
Dude, I mean...
he has a match versus, Taza, but they don't really wrestle.
Was it Dante? Or was it...
It's later on.
Yeah, I forget who it was again. But it was a guy, he was wrestling a guy, and I went, I always kind of forget how good Kenta Iwamoto's wrestling is. And then I remember that he almost beat JT Torres with wrestling.
Yeah.
That in like 2022.
He likes double legs.
He does. And he won trials when he won trials at 77 kilos.
Yeah.
The second time he won
Yeah.
trials. Miranda loves the interview because
He's like, I like to wrestle.
I like to wrestle. I like double A. And it's a very like quaint Kenta Iwamoto interview at him winning this trials. And he's won trials, 66, 77, I think, and at 88 now, which is, was it 80 or 77 twice?
I think it's 77 twice.
Yeah. He just has consistent good wrestling. And in this rule set, it was something we saw him beating guys with of like, oh, and then he gets you to the ground and you're like, oh, right, he's also a pretty good leg locker too. And it was Kenta has a good style for this rule set. And again, the heel hook over Alexander Jesus kind of shows that.
Yeah.
Next, we had Gianni Grippo defeating Nathaniel Jackson. That was another heel hook.
That was like a minute. It was a minute 52.
It was very quick. And so this was the match where I realized, because for some reason when I watched the Kenta match, I was like, is that a heel hook? I don't get a heel hook. I didn't think there were heel hooks in this event.
Yeah.
And then Gianni hits a heel hook, and I went, apparently there are heel hooks.
Yeah.
It was like two of them in a row because I went,
well, and then
apparently there are heel hooks.
Then you have the third one in a row.
And then Daniel Stewart defeats Felipe Andrew via heel hook.
Yeah.
You see a trend here.
But this is a fuck around and find out heel hook, as I call them.
This is the match. I texted you when I watched this.
Yeah.
I went, oh, Felipe Andrew got leg locked again.
Yeah.
Felipe Andrew was winning this match.
Yeah.
Pretty in the driver's seat most of the match. And then he gets into a leg lock battle with Daniel Stewart. And we know, I can never pronounce Daniel's name, his last name here. Stewart?
Short.
Stewart.
I always want to say something that sounds like
Stewart.
no, that sounds like something you accidentally do in your pants every once in a while.
This comes up every time. And
Short.
I want to cut it. I want to cut it every time you say it in the podcast. But here we are. And Felipe Andrew, notably, I remember the Wagner Hosha match that Felipe Andrew had.
Yeah.
Where he's kind of going to and then he just kind of leaves the top side leg out, and Wagner Hosha goes, free foot, and just rips the leg lock on him and finishes him. This was kind of the same thing where it's like he's winning, and then Felipe Andrew kind of leaves his legs out there, and Daniel Stewart goes, oh, cool, like your legs are extended here. You can't push off and away from me. I'm just going to counter leg lock you out of this position. I have your feet. You can't tack and move away. And he kind of gives it up, like not taking anything away from Stewart's setup here.
No, he's the ADCC trials champ.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, no, he's really good.
He's an Australian
but
that likes feet.
It was one of those, like, it was a consistent thing that we're seeing from Felipe Andrew now.
Yeah.
That we didn't as much used to see from him, where he sort of like gets ahead on guys, will go into his own leg locks, and then we'll get counter leg locked.
Yeah.
And it was just more of the same. Like, you just kind of keep doing this. I'm very curious what about him training at AOJ has sort of, and this was happening before AOJ as well, but it's just it's just odd for as high level as Felipe Andrew is to continue to kind of see him get counter leg locked in a similar way where he sort of leaves his feet out and doesn't pummel his feet in as he is attacking his own foot locks. It's a little odd. Acai Republic forfeits the final match. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So shout out to Just Magazine. We're using their results and our notes. There's, again, a lot of matches to cover here. Poya Romani, the beach wrestling champion, who is always, he's an imposing figure.
Dude, he was taking
Hanky Julissa.
Hanky down.
Dude.
Like he was.
And Hanky's like a 2 or 3 time ADCC plus 99 kilogram champion. Beat Big Dan before.
He's a very large man.
Yeah. So people talk about Julissa, because Julissa historically doesn't do a lot of events. He kind of does trials and ADCC, and occasionally will show up to an event here and there. People always talk about how just insanely strong he is.
Yeah.
So he's like, he's like weird strong, which you hear a lot from the high level guys, but it is fun to have a guy like Julissa come up and guys go, don't know much about his game, don't see him very often, and then they're like, man, he's really, really strong.
Yeah.
Poya Romani, also really crazy, big, strong. Poya Romani had a match at Pit Submission versus Kanye Duarte where nothing happened. He's been on AIGA a bunch of times. We've seen him.
He was on ADXC.
Yep, been on ADXC before. Like, he's good, man. He's a guy that it wouldn't surprise me to see Poya show up in an ADCC trials and do quite well.
Oh, yeah.
He's one of those guys where it's like, I think we're going to see more of you.
And the thing is, like, for being a very large heavyweight, like, I think he was like almost like ankle picking
Julissa?
Yeah, I think because he was cutting angles, and I can't remember if he was doing them singles or ankle picks, but he was getting like around him, and he was doing it faster than there could be a reaction to it.
Yeah, he's big and quick, man.
Yeah.
That's sort of, we've seen him do that before, but beats him on points. We had Felipe Machado defeating Nicolas Beraldo. Bellardo via points. It was good. I was happy to see Felipe Machado again. We haven't seen him. Is he the guy that had the match with Mikey? Was that Felipe Machado or was that somebody else?
I think it was Felipe Machado.
I haven't looked it up, but for some reason I think it was Felipe Machado, and people were like, it was Mikey's first. I think it was Mikey's first match on UFC when he'd come over from one championship, and he had a really tough match with Felipe Machado, and everyone was like, "Oh, one's beginning walkovers." I'm like, "Nah, Felipe Machado just." Really good.
Yeah.
And has like very he's very hard to beat in a lot of the places that Mikey wants to play the game. I think it was Felipe Machado, but every time I see him it that pops into my head as I think that was him. We had Hijat Rashid, Hejraat Rashid defeating Gabriel Souza via an arm and guillotine.
He did go against Mikey.
I was right.
You were
okay.
correct at Fight Pass Invitational 9.
Oh, it was okay. It was Fight Pass Invitational event. Yeah. But it was Mikey's first one on the. I remember it was his debut at UFC. Yeah. This was weird. Gabriel Souza was winning this match, and then later in the match, he shoots a double leg and he gets arm and guillotined, and that is it. This looked.
Was it arm and guillotine or was it more like an anaconda?
They have it listed as arm and guillotine. It was kind of. I remember it being more starting as an arm and guillotine because I remember it being almost exactly like the ADCC match that he had against. Was it Pato, or was it?
No, it was somebody else. Just like
Fabricio Andre, maybe.
I don't remember.
But it was almost the exact same sequence that Gabriel Souza got caught in at ADCC that he was able to kind of get out of through a slam. But it was odd to see him shoot into two major tournaments into an arm and guillotine in kind of the same way. It was just a very, it struck me as like, oh, wow, it's weird that happened twice.
It could just be, you're not used to, when you're in the room, you're not used to people doing that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But he's like super high level. It's just, it is uncommon to see super high level guys shoot and get guillotined like this. But again, it does happen like ADCC. Look at Craig Jones. He has a bunch of those at ADCC off the shots. We had Jason Knolf defeating Jed Hugh via decision. I was really curious how this was going to go. And then Jason Knolf he forced Jed Hugh to the side. He was able to pass and get his back, I think, 2 different times.
Yeah.
And I was curious if Jed was even going to get out. Like, Jed, he didn't get submitted.
He tried to armbar Jed Hugh at one point. I was like, holy shit, they taught him an armbar.
Yep. Again, this is what, Knolf has these flashes of like, oh, you really do understand jiu-jitsu in the game. And, his wrestling is phenomenal.
He's at Kingsway, so I can't imagine that he's not getting quality.
He's absolutely getting quality
training.
That's what makes the Pato match for me kind of weird because Jed Hugh again is a trials. I think a trials winner, or a trials medalist at the very least. Was a Polaris champion, is a Polaris champion, very good grappler. And Jason Knolf just dealt with the guard, dealt with the leg locks, came in, got his back off a turtle, looked really good versus Jed Hugh and put Jed Hugh in some serious danger. And then we'll have another weird match later. So this was a match that I wasn't sure Jason Knolf could win, and won pretty convincingly over Jed Hugh. Next, we had Paulo Jaworski defeating Oliver Taza via decision. You have a note here that Taza goes up in weight.
Yeah, he went up to 83 kilograms because he wanted to go against Jaworski.
Mm-hmm. And then Jaworski beat him. Jaworski was bigger, but this was mainly a leg lock battle between both of them, which is where Jaworski wants to be and it's where Taza wants to be.
Yeah. Jaworski is another Polish leg locker.
Yep. There's a lot of them. With Polish Mateus.
Polish Mateus.
Mateus Szczynski.
Yeah.
This was kind of a weird one because Jaworski just sort of outworks Taza.
Yeah.
Taza did not work at a pace and get enough good bites on anything to beat him.
Jaworski did get in on things every once in a while. It was just Taza was, ahead of him slightly on certain things, but Taza wasn't attacking. And at no point, we have situations where Taza just isn't. He's trying to pass. He's worried about passing. And he's not attacking.
Yeah, and he gets very tunnel visioned in some of the pieces of the match here.
And And it also was Oliver Taza trying to pass him and not trying to like sit and, play foot games with him.
Yeah, which is it was just a weird match for Taza. Like, it seemed like Taza went into this match with something to prove specifically.
Yeah.
And Jaworski went into the match like, I'm going to try to win the match in the rule set.
Yeah.
And it was just a weird.
And I think Jaworski is also one of those, like, we don't see a lot of him. We see him in tournaments here and
a lot
there.
of European events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
but not a lot of European events. We see him occasionally in European events. Is he the guy that won Polaris Trials? We have Mateusz Maculowicz won. Did he also win a Polaris Trials?
Probably. I think so. I think
he might have
He
also
plays
won.
almost the same as that game.
Yeah, he had a really good performance on Polaris, and I was like, we're going to see more of him.
Yeah.
And again, win over Taza is like a
there
really
was
good
a leg lock camp that was him and Mateusz. And,
yes.
I want to say it was Joseph Chen. It was like the three of them.
Okay.
Because it would have been fun, but
They
they
great.
didn't come this direction.
Next, we had a match that I was excited for. Giancarlo Bodoni defeating Santeri Lilius via rear naked choke. Santeri undefeated at ADCC trials.
Yes.
He pulls Paulo Ardilla. He goes, he wins, he does ADCC, and that's really all we see of him.
Yeah.
And I think Ardilla occasionally does some other stuff, but Santeri, we see him on like Polaris and stuff like that, but dude goes to ADCC trials, wins. So this is Giancarlo Bodoni, your two-time under 88 kilogram champion. Santeri, your two-time or three-time ADCC, I think two-time ADCC under 88 kilogram European trials winner.
Yeah.
And Giancarlo, again, this was fun because it was Santeri entering from the bottom into the legs, and Giancarlo just having bulletproof defense. It was like Santeri would try to throw for a knee bar or try to throw for an outside heel hook or try to throw for a toe hold, and Giancarlo would turn the foot, move the knee line out, but not get overzealous running away to get his back taken. He would kind of stay there almost like in a tall X-guard.
Yeah.
Or like a single leg X from Santeri. And then he would step, he would press the foot down. I actually watched part of this match twice because I was very curious what Bodoni was doing. Then he would step on the foot, he would grab the head of Santeri. It was just like, wow, it is all of the basic leg lock defense that you teach someone just done perfectly. Yeah. It was like, yep, you get here, you block, you check down, you come. It was like textbook of.
He also, before he hit the New Wave camp, he came from Lucas Lepre.
Yeah.
So it's not, he's had a lineage of people that have.
Good defense.
Yeah. And people who have told him for years, you do this, this,
It was very nice to see a guy like Santeri running a very good methodical leg lock sequence and putting the Bodoni on the defensive, and then Bodoni just going, yep, I block here, I push the knee down, I push the foot across, I put open the foot, and you just got to watch like Santeri methodically running down a leg lock train, and Bodoni methodically just like never really any super big danger, but just one step ahead of where he needed to be so that he wasn't in danger. And eventually he kind of unravels everything. He's able to get the head, pass, get to the back, and I think in the second round, and get the rear naked choke. But it was just like, I really enjoyed watching, you see Bodoni just be super methodical in like, yep, Santeri's amazing, but this is, you just have to be correct and be in front of these problems and you win. We had Dante Leon defeating Marcus Phelan via heel hook. I don't actually remember this one.
I think it was Dante Leon. Like was
it inside heel hook on this one, or?
I don't remember this exact heel hook off the top of my head, but he was pulling and going into legs.
Yeah.
And
we saw more of Dante's guard work here. For pretty much the
sure,
entire event, Dante was playing from the guard for the majority of it.
Or, yeah, there's one match that I'll go over a sequence just because he hit it like 5 times in a row, and it was probably pretty interesting. Next,
we had Team Universal Fighters versus Team Battle Force. A lot of points. Pretty much everything is a win on points. Again, which makes sense. You have the two teams that are out of Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
A lot of heavy wrestling. You have a lot of guys with good takedowns. We have one Z-Lock versus Vladimir Krumitsky defeats Zoop. Oof. This is why we're not covering these guys, because I'm just going to butcher names super bad. With a Z-Lock, and then you had a referee decision for the final, or for like a match in the middle, but most of it was points matches for Team Universal Fighters over Battle Force 5-2.
Yeah.
Next, anything you want to cover for that one?
Nope.
Next, we had Team Kasai versus Team Checkmat. This was a great matchup. Now from here on, it's just banger matchups.
Yeah.
We had Kainan Duarte defeating Arnaldo Maidana via rear naked choke. For some reason, I think these guys have been against each other before, and I think it was the same way. For some reason, I thought it was a who's number one or something early, and it was like
I don't know. I don't recall Arnaldo's name at all. But that doesn't mean anything.
It was Duarte looking like Duarte.
Yeah.
Next, we had I'm gonna keep going. You stop me where you want to interject. Am I on the right notes page for you?
Yep, I'm good.
Awesome. We had Elijah Dorsey defeating Mateus Luna via points.
Dude, this was kind of funny because it got chippy after a while.
It did. A little bit.
And I didn't realize that there's two Lunas and they're twins. There's Mateus Luna and Matthias. Like, their names are almost exactly the same, and they're twin brothers, and they both compete.
I think you're fucking with me.
No,
I don't think that's correct.
Because
this would be the first time I realized that they are the same. They're different guys.
No,
and we've been covering them for years and years. I think is the same guy.
Yeah,
I thought it was just like a different spelling for a guy's name.
I thought so too.
That's crazy.
They're brothers.
This is, I think.
So there's Matthias Luna and Mateus Luna.
Is the twin brother of Mateus.
And they're twins. And they look exactly the same. And they both compete.
And they're both very good.
I didn't. Yeah.
I might have known. I had to have known this. I had to have known
allegedly
this
they
I had to have known this.
Yeah, because the one was the one who scored like 1 million points against somebody at an IBJJF, right? Wasn't that?
No, that was
that was Mr. Grandotti. But anyway,
maybe.
It was somebody like that. But anyway, yeah. So there's a Mateus Luna and there's a Matthias Luna, and they're twin brothers, and they look exactly the same, and they both compete, and they're the same size. Mm-hmm. And new fact for the podcast today.
I just have an existential crisis over covering them, and it's the same guy probably for the last 5 years.
This is Mateus Luna.
Okay. So Elijah Dorsey defeats Mateus Luna. And this, again, you do not want to meet Dorsey in a points tournament, man.
Yeah.
That dude just knows how to score and knows how to stay in front. Good luck if he scores first on you, because it's an uphill battle, man. Next, we had Junior Ocasio defeating Nathan Fernandez via an ankle lock.
This is kind of funny because, like, dude immediately like shoots into Junie's legs trying to ankle lock Junie.
I thought that was like, I was like, that was a bold strategy, good sir.
And Junie's like, no, and he just
Junie didn't immediately counter ankle lock him. But it very quickly, Junior kind of like moved his legs out and then pummels his feet. And then there's a little bit of a back and forth. And then later, I think it was the first, might have been a later round.
No, it was the same round. It was like, It was within a minute. Like there was
Maybe it was quick.
There was a little bit between, like it wasn't immediate, but it was like Nathaniel like went as fast as he could into Junie.
It was like a quick. It was Junie like you have a plan.
Got out of that, and then kind of like played with his legs a little bit. And you could see him like grab the leg he wanted, and then pull it up, and then heel hook.
Ankle lock.
Or ankle
this was
lock.
an ankle lock.
Yeah.
You go straight out. Yeah. This was just. It was a very funny like counter strategy. That again, Junior Ocasio gets your feet and surprise to no one.
But if you go into the next match was also this way.
Roberto Jimenez defeats Gabriel Almeida via rear naked choke.
Gabriel Almeida comes at Roberto harder than I've ever seen him before in his life.
Dude, Almeida. So I've commentated a couple of Almeida's matches locally here on Copa Elite, on a Copa Virginia actually.
He like freaking. I mean, I guess you have to. I mean, really, in all honesty,
you do not want to give. It's the Andy Varela problem.
Yeah.
If you give that guy enough space and enough time, he will overrun you. If you can get in front of him and stifle him a little bit, which not many people can do, especially nowadays, like that's kind of, you do not want to go scramble for scramble with Roberto Jimenez unless you have some weird attribute that he does not have.
Yeah. He's also got quite the mane of hair nowadays.
Dude, he's getting like a lion.
Yeah.
Every time he comes out, he reminds me of he's got a big beard and the big, almost like not quite an afro, but like he is.
No, he's got some.
He has a look going on about him.
He has a lot of
wild
volume. He has a lot of volume to his hair.
That's a nice way to put that.
No, it is. Because it doesn't come out of place either. I swear that thing gives him extra
aura.
Do you know how
+5 to special defense?
That's what I mean. +5 choke defense or something like that. Dude. Just because it's the extra hair. But anyway.
And then Roberto slows Almeida down and then picks up his pace on Almeida and then eventually gets the back and gets the rear naked choke. But it was not honestly a bad strategy from Gabriel Almeida. I think also Almeida looked smaller than Jimenez here. I think Jimenez is easily above 200 now. And Almeida, I do not believe is that big.
This was also interesting because Roberto holds his back for a ridiculous amount of time. And dude tries every single way possible to get out of. And Roberto's like, nope, gonna take your back. Gonna hold you this way.
I watched this back take. I think there's I'm gonna mix up a couple of Roberto's matches.
So many back takes in this.
There was one of them that, again, we've talked about it before. Roberto Jimenez is a wizard back taker, and I forget nothing changed here.
There's also a wild back take, and I think it might have been one of the early matches, one of the kind of matches earlier, where he just goes, "I'm just gonna pick you up and put my leg in and take your back."
Oh yeah, he does. He does the sit down back to me. Yeah. You're like where he's chair sits them up.
I have people do that to me, but they're also much larger
man, to have
than
another
me.
professional kind of does that to you, you're like, dude, come on. Next match, we had Pedro Marinho defeating Carl Peggers via arm in guillotine. The return of the Pedro Marinho guillotine. It is a terrifying tool, and it is why Pedro Marinho can be so dominant in the wrestling.
Yeah.
There you go, man. Pedro Marinho, you see it on display here.
Yeah.
I think it was quick, too.
Yeah.
It was bop, he gets it, and then you're like, Marinho has a crazy squeeze. There it is. Next, we had Dorian Oliveras defeating Igor Morena via rear naked choke. Again, look at this, sub. They're kind of, again, going the way that you sort of would expect them to go, but it is also this is not the speed that normal tournaments happen at. This is a very submission-heavy event, and the Grappling Conjecture put something together that I haven't got a chance to kind of digest and look through yet, but it has, breakdowns of what was gone for, the points, the submissions, and I want to actually look at that. If you haven't seen them yet and you like this show, the Grappling Conjecture puts together, really interesting stats breakdowns of these major events for, CJI and ADCC and UFC Fight Pass, and he's number one.
Especially because sometimes you see, the same... You see a takedown either a takedown or a submission that just all of a sudden shows up, and it happens 50 times.
Sulev stretch, which we'll see later in this event. Next, Dorian Oliveras defeats Igor Morena via rear naked choke. Dorian Oliveras is playing more into people now, and he is going to continue to be a problem. He's at Kingsway, so I think now.
He is. He just got his black belt.
Okay. Yep. He did Worlds, and then he got his black belt.
Yeah.
The way he moves, he is a little less quick than he was at 17. But I don't think that's because he can't do that. I think that's because he knows he can now pressure down and control guys. And in this match specifically, he was playing way, way further down and way more comfortably through the guard of Igor than we have seen him play before. Again, we've seen him do it at trials, but there's a level of comfort there that it reminds me of when I was on his mat as his head primary judge before he did trials when I was in Dallas, and I was like, dude, watch out for this kid. Yeah. And then he wins trials. It was cool, I still got it. Yeah. But it reminds me of that where he's just blowing through guys, and I was like, oh, you have a skill set here that is very difficult to deal with. That's on display here. Next, we had Pato defeating Tamerlan Yildiz via arm triangle choke. This finished it out. Kasai beats Checkmat 7-0. Clean sweep on Checkmat.
Yep.
Proceeds to the finals.
That was the end of day one.
Mm-hmm.
So you see how many matches we had each day. Stay right there because I
thought we were in day two. That's why I scrolled to day two notes more, and I thought we were in day two.
We're not day two
still.
yet until semifinals start.
Semifinals start. Day two, Team Alayon versus Team's William Elite Team, which Team Williams Elite Team was previously the Moldolfo team. Yeah. It is now Williams Elite, which is
It's a construction company in Hawaii.
Which I I still don't believe you, but
it's the same picture. So it's the same logo.
All
and then
the pieces line up.
When I went
yes.
when I went to Bodoni, because Bodoni, he's on their team and he tagged them. So he must at least know them or know of them. I'm thinking they have to be like somehow connected into something. They had pictures with like a bunch of people. And
I am really curious, but again, Team Williams Elite.
I also want to know how much money you got to put up to get a team.
Bro, to get that team, that's a crazy team. Like the Modolfo team was a crazy. Honestly, the Kasai team, the Modolfo team, all Leon, like all these teams now are absurd level teams. Like each team here could headline any super fight card that we cover throughout the year. If half these guys were on one card, it would be like, cool, we're covering this event. That's the level of teams that these teams put together.
Yeah, I don't know. That was my like 5 minutes of quickly trying to figure out who they were.
So let's move on to day 2. Starts off with controversy. Not really. Big Dan defeats Ian Darby via heel hook. Big Dan makes a transition to like a backside heel hook or like a knee torque.
Yeah.
And I think this is the match. And apologies if this is not the correct match. I think this is the match.
You are.
And Ian like goes, you got like basically goes like he says.
I think he verbal taps.
But he says something. He's okay. Like he says, okay. He says something like that, and then he kind of seems like he keeps going. Big Dan goes, "What?" And like gets upset.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You fucking tapped."
Yeah.
And the match is over. But it seemed like there was a little because Big Dan puts his foot down and like which I do appreciate as a competitor. Like, hey man, I was about to try to do horrific things to you, and you acted like you were done. We are done here. Yeah. I'm not going to go back to the match because you said, no, I had the courtesy to stop because we've seen Big Dan. We've seen it.
Yeah.
Break guys' legs in half. We've seen him do it.
Yep.
It is nice to see him have the courtesy to not do that. And it is also nice to see him kind of put his foot down and go, no, man, like you tap. We're not doing this. I'm done. We're done so. I go, Babo Wasabo.
I still want to make sure your dog wasn't drinking an energy drink because that would be weird.
He got the flavor inside of him. That's good. Moving on, Kenta Iwamoto defeats Oliver Taza via points. This is, again, an Oliver Taza match, and Kenta Iwamoto forces Oliver Taza to wrestle in 2 different spots. Taza has a good entry on one, and then Kenta is able to counter him, and you're like, I would not want to try to out-wrestle Kenta Iwamoto.
Yeah.
Like, there is just something about his wrestling.
I think you also have to get some size on him. I think if you had size on him, then
maybe
you might be able to, but he's still fast. Like
he's fast and he's really good, man. Again, you out wrestled JT Torres.
Yeah.
A guy that won ADCC on inside trips.
Yeah.
Like, you out wrestled that guy. That is not a guy that I would ever want to out wrestle. And again, Dante Leon.
Oliver Taza.
I've lost my space here, Miranda.
Right there. Oliver Taza. Second one down.
Thank you. There we go.
There we go.
Just not a guy like that you want to out wrestle.
Yeah.
So Kenta Iwamoto defeats him on points. I think 2 rounds he gets takedowns, and Taza's not able to get takedowns. Yeah. And then Kenta is good enough everywhere else that Taza wants to take the match to stay out of it. Good guard passing through Taza. Is not able to really get past, but those takedowns win it for him. Next, we have Dante Leon defeating DeAndre Corbe via decision here.
So I wanted to talk about something because Dante Leon tried this multiple times, and normally I get a little pissy when people try the same thing multiple times and don't get anywhere.
It's such a funny thing. It's such a funny thing,
and it's really weird that I get mad about it.
Hey man, if it's working, Miranda, do that. You got mad at Mikey for Gabriel's same thing. I was like, yeah, Miranda, he's winning with it. Why wouldn't you not? Why'd you do it?
But anyway, but in this situation, you could see that Dante was also changing how exactly he was doing it. So he was playing De La Riva, which for whatever reason, I've always thought De La Riva in Nogi was kind of BS because you didn't really have the grips to be able to hold on. But Dante showed that Miranda does not always know what she's talking about.
It's also Dante. He's one of the few guys I think that consistently can play a Nogi De La Riva.
He also has
armbar.
He also has the forearms of like a 200-pound man. Like, he's a level of strength that I don't think we understand as mere humans.
Dude, you've seen the lifting videos that Dante posts, and you're like,
it's wild. But he so he would go from De La Riva to X-guard, and then he would wrestle up from X-guard. And he did it like 2 or 3 times, and it wasn't really working. Or DeAndre would kind of understand what was happening and kind of shoot it back down. But that's how he finally beats him, because he gets points in one of the later rounds, because he just like freaking.
He finally kind of figures out the timing of where DeAndre is going to move his legs and gets the second leg there and puts him down.
Yeah, which is a great progression, and it's. It's a good showing of Dante and his ability to, number one, play guard, retain guard, and then be able to change exactly what he's doing as he's doing it.
Mm-hmm. And eventually have it work out. This is referee's decision, is what this is listed as. Do you have it listed as points?
I thought it was points, but there's a possibility maybe it wasn't.
Doesn't DeAndre go off the side or something like that, or one of those sequences where it's clear that Dante probably would have settled it.
Yeah.
But
I thought there were points awarded, but maybe I'm wrong.
But who knows? We've had issues with 55 matches.
But
there's a lot.
But he did. This progression is. I would like to watch it just because it made a lot of sense. It was easily to like exploit and keep using against somebody, even if they understood what was happening to him. Yeah. So
DeAndre's a trials winner.
Yeah.
Very, very. And again, won the Zapatero $100,000 event. Like, he's very, very good. Next, we had Dante Leon defeating Felipe Machado via decision. Impressive win for Leon. We've talked about him a little bit before. I think we're going to continue to see more from him.
Daki did the meanest. Like, I love some mean jiu-jitsu every once in a while, but this even made me go, ew. He like jumped on Felipe Machado's back, and then he wanted to like take his back, so he literally took both of his feet to the back of the knees and like pushed on his knees to get him down.
You see it at the smaller weight classes a lot more than you do at the bigger weight classes.
Well, normally you do the butterflies. You like push them out with a butterfly. You don't like stomp their knees.
In comp, this is how you do it.
Your doggo is not very happy.
Yeah, he's whining. I'm not sure why he's whining.
If you hear the whining, I was trying to make sure he wasn't.
I texted Maura. I was like, "Hey, take him out." She goes, "I am at the grocery store." I was like, awesome.
I was afraid he was going to take a pee in a corner.
That's my kind of concern here. So we may adjourn here in a minute after this segment and then run it back. Because he is making a lot of noise.
Yeah. Maybe he just wants us to pick him up.
Maybe. So you grab the dog. Come here. So we have Dominic Mejia defeating Johnny Grippo via knee bar. This was surprising, but wasn't necessarily like... We know Dominic Mejia is good. We know Dominic Mejia is a good leg locker. And we know Johnny Grippo occasionally can get knee barred. It is not unheard of. I think I always get it reversed. Did Cisneros blow Grippo's knee out, or did Grippo blow Cisneros' knee out at trials?
Grippo blew...
In trials. For some reason, I always can never remember who blew whose knee out there.
It was Grippo's knee. I believe it was a Grippo knee that got blown out by Cisneros.
At the trials. So Dominic Mejia has a really good entry here, and then he essentially just hits like the low side entry on the knee bar, rolls down underneath it, and then gets the knee bar on Grippo.
Grippo's playing the normal game of like a not Z-guard, but kind of like a knee shield almost. Yeah. And he's kind of keeping him away from there, but he's kind of this match is a little more scrappy because like Mejia is kind of coming in and he's kind of doing that. I come in and I go out and like not really allowing
off time in and out. Not letting Grippo really start to establish a heavy guard to control Mejia and sort of go and turn him over or go to like the things that Grippo Grippo likes to do.
Yeah, it basically he grabs the top side foot of Grippo, and Grippo goes to say, "Oh, I can just bolo you from here," and he goes to bolo, and as he's boloing, Mejia just freaking sits in on the knee, like, and it's as easy as
a counter bolo knee bar.
Yeah.
But it was the low side as opposed to like the top side knee on it, is what I recall. No. I could be wrong about this.
Well, it started off as the top side foot, but then Grippo changed and sat up, and when he sat up, then it came from the sides, and then went the other direction. That's why. But the weird thing that happened at the beginning of this match, which I found to be bizarre, was like they both sat down at the same time, and then they like stopped everything, and they like went to film, and Mejia likes to level change. But he level changes almost the same way you do a shot, but with no penetration. You just go, straight down, which is kind of like my shot because
he does the duck thing. Well, and then you can touch the leg a lot,
Yeah.
which Grippo knows from IBJJF.
But so when Mejia does the level change, Grippo sat, but he sat like kind of sideways into him. So it's created this really bizarre situation where
From a
they
scoring
didn't-
perspective, is it a takedown or is it not a takedown? Essentially.
So allegedly they were saying that because Mejia was doing a level change and not a shot because he wasn't coming forward, it was considered a guard pull. Which I found interesting because I never really thought about that before.
Yeah, this is the most always. This usually is the most controversial thing of like, is it not? And this is something that I have found I can do pretty well in the moment now because of just all the ADCC matches and then all of the years of doing this show and looking specifically for those where it's like I've gotten good at just knowing exactly what I need to be looking for to make that decision.
Yeah.
So this is if you are curious about this. Just watch a lot of matches at the lower weights that have pulls, and you will start to see what the criteria is and where the foot is, and like, oh, is he coming forward? You'll start to get a feel and look and find your triggers for what you're looking for when something is a guard pull versus a takedown, or when it's an intercept. Like, hey, he pulled, but I made the motion first, and so it just comes with time. But that was the big moment. Mejia gets it done. Next match, we had Devontae Johnson defeating Lucas Lira via Anaconda choke. This is another one where it's like Devontae late in the match, like not much time left in the match, throws from a front headlock.
No, he does not.
He does under his back.
He does a double underpass. He does a
Oh,
double
that was
underpass
this
and
one.
he flops him over. And when he flops him over, he instead of like spinning around to his back and taking his back, he just freaking sinks the Anaconda.
Yep.
Which I was like, wild. Never thought about that before.
Yeah, he just
Never
nails it in. I was like, I don't know if he can finish this. And the camera angle you can see is like right on Lira's face. And I was like, I'm not sure how tight that is. And then you see Lira tap and like look like he's partially unconscious. And it was like, oh, that was really deep and really tight.
Yeah. I just would have never thought to transition that off a double underpass.
I never would have thought he would have got that close, but the way that he like laces up the arm once he gets there, it was like, oh, that was impressive.
Yeah.
Like that was, you knew that you could get that there. I think Devontae also has long arms, so he's able to get it, but I was impressed at this finish from Devontae. And then we have one of the quicker matches of the entire tournament. Izaak Michell defeats Chris Wojcik via armbar. Were these guys at B Team at the same time? Do we know that?
No, they were not.
Okay, we always ask that question.
Izaak was right before Wojcik.
Okay.
Wojcik came after Izaak.
Izaak knew what Wojcik was going to do, and then immediately armbars him and finishes. It's not really a jump over the guard, but it kind of is almost.
What do you mean? It's Isaac's shot. Wojcik grabs a Kimura trap.
Oh yeah,
and he
okay.
freaking arm bars the Kimura trap like
He counters it.
Yeah,
that's what it was. It was just very, very quick.
Well, you had to watch a different when they switched angles. Like from the angle that they showed you, it didn't make any sense. You were like, "What the fuck? Why? How did this happen?" You know. But when they switched angles, you could see Chris. When he shot in, Chris was trying to go to like Kimura trap and almost like a crucifix on his back, like over his shoulders. And because he did that and he locked that Kimura trap, you know, it's kind of like the GSP armbar.
Yeah.
You know, where you have to spin around them and go. Same sort of thing.
So Team Williams Elite defeats Team Leon 4-3. They progress into the finals. Next, we had Team Universal Fighters versus Team Kasai. We had Junior Ocasio defeating Marabek Tamev via points. We had Pedro Marinho defeating Eldor Alazov via referee's decision here. Again, this is more of a Pedro Marinho match that was more pensive, but still like doing enough to win the referee's decision.
Yeah.
Watch every Who's Number One match for Pedro Marinho. A lot of standing, a lot of fencing.
Yeah.
But some good guard work as well. You know?
If you don't open up to him, then he doesn't really have the possibility of doing anything to you.
Right. But a very clear decision for Pedro Marinho here. Next we had Ruslan Abdullayev defeating Kainan Duarte via decision. Ruslan is a guy, so I have a big tangent here to go on.
Ruslan's like super hairy, isn't he?
Yeah, he's really, really good.
Yeah, but he's been around for a bazillion years.
And I think he has a bunch of guys, like apparently he has like a win over Cyborg and that. So I was told a story about Ruslan years ago that someone was talking to him and they were like, why do you have all these like, big wins? He goes, I've never beat him when it counts. So Ruslan, I think, has some visa problems. So that's why we don't see him in ADCC. but allegedly he is like one of the top guys outside, or has been in years past, outside of ADCC.
He's hired.
Look at UWW. Ruslan is a monster in UWW. I mean, that side of the world, Ruslan's one of those guys. And given how you see what he does, and he's bigger than Kynan.
Yeah. But he wears him down. Like, round 3, you look at Kynan, and Kynan is tired.
Like, that's sort of how you have to beat Conor Duarte.
Yeah.
You got to lean on him. You got to wear him down. You got to do what Luke Griffiths does to him.
Yeah.
You got to kind of like, seems to be the consistency, because you can't, Kynan got better leg locks.
Yeah.
It's not really a great pathway to beat him anymore. It's there occasionally, but you need to wear Kynan down. Like, we have Nicky Rod. We have Luke Griffith. Like, Ruslan. That seems to be the pathway. Again, non-ADCC Kynan.
Yeah.
To wear him down, take him deep, and then you can win a decision. You can get things going on him because his activity really plummets. Ruslan takes this. But Ruslan, this is a matchup. This is not a crazy...
Doesn't Ruslan also fight MMA?
I think he used to. I don't know if he does anymore, but I think he used to. But yeah, this is what seems to kind of us, because we don't cover Ruslan a ton, a crazy result. Probably not actually as crazy as you would expect it to be. Ruslan maybe isn't the favorite here, but it wouldn't surprise me if there were odds on going into this that Ruslan might be very close or favored here versus Kynan. He's just very, very good. We just don't see him very often over in the events that we cover. So that's my tangent. Diego Pato Oliveira defeats Garzamag Tara. I say them real quick to hopefully get through of them, and then I'm struggling. Gazi Magomedov versus Treg Avev.
Versus what? You completely added.
Pato beats the gentleman whose name I can't pronounce.
Gazi Magomed Tagev.
Yeah, why are you not doing the names, Miranda?
I don't know.
I can say Pato. You move on. You get the rest of the name. I mess up Oliveira half the time.
So Diego Pato defeats Gazi Magomed Tagev via submission, heel hook. He taps him twice, and then he starts a brawl.
Yeah. You talked about this on I think on the pre-show.
Brawl ensued. Yes. There was a brawl. They all were not happy. Everybody screaming at each other. They had to remove people from the floor, and all kinds of shit broke loose. It was pretty wild.
Pato beats him.
Yeah.
It's what you would expect.
He taps the first time, but then keeps on going. And then Pato like rips it on him. And then dude, I think bitches because Pato ripped it on him. And then Pato like screams in his face. And then so his whole team is like, oh, he's been, disrespected. And then there's every single AIGA event I've ever seen has had at least one brawl.
It is a classic.
And I'm okay with that.
Hey, man, it's a
I
classic.
think you need a brawl every once in a while just to bring the people together. But
bring the camaraderie.
Yes.
Next one we have...
Gazi Magomed Gaziv defeats...
Elijah Dorsey. I got that name. Your referee's decision. This was close. I could kind of see... I used to argue. Dorsey wasn't happy about the decision, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But I do think that Gaziev, I think there's a reasonable argument for him to take this.
Why?
The dog's doing weird stuff.
Oh, okay.
I apologize.
Is he making weird noises or something?
He's just moving weird. I don't know what's up. Regardless, we'll get through the show.
Yeah.
For the audio listeners, he's sitting on my lap now. So video listeners can see him, but for audio, he's on the lap now, hanging out.
Yeah.
I have one hand access to the podcast, not for the mouse.
That's okay.
Yeah, it was close, but it was, again, kind of a match where neither guy got enough going for me to be mad about a decision.
Yeah, and Elijah was trying to play a lot of corners and a lot of edges like he normally does, and Gazi Magomed does not care about the corners.
Yeah, which wins. I think wins the match. Yeah. Next one, we had Fabricio Andre defeating Zara Ahmedov via Sulavev stretch. He went for it 3 times. I was like, dude.
I thought he was just going to do a falling armbar.
No, he looked so this is something you do. You do the Sulavev stretch when someone goes to a 4-point stance, when you have a power ride or a high ball ride on their back, where you don't have both hooks in.
Yeah.
You have one leg isolation. You have a back mount, but you only have one leg when you have back mount.
Yeah.
And then you're not in a great place to basically hop and get your other leg in because you're too low on their hips.
Yeah.
And so what someone will do, because you can't hop their hips easily, is they go to a 4-point stance. So their butt's up in the air, their both hands are on the mat. And what happens if your abs aren't strong enough, and a lot of guys in the room, that aren't professional athletes, aren't strong enough, eventually they fall off to one side, and then they go for the falling armbar, and they never get it. And then they're back in guard, and you get to pass. Fabricio Andre is a real strong dude. Look at his picture from CJI2 for the Australia team. Yeah. Boy's jacked. And he has the ab strength to stay in this position for a long time. So Zaire is pressed forward. Yeah. And you see Fabricio Andre kind of scoop for it, look for it a couple of times, and eventually he's able to loop onto the leg and get that hamstring stretch, the Suleigh'ev stretch, and get it done. But it was cool to see him kind of repeatedly go for it a few times and then still be able to get it. Because usually it's something you go for like one time, you get one shot at it, and if you don't get it, you fall off the back. Yeah. It was nice to see Fabricio Andre have like the skill to be able to kind of continue to reach for it, because that is super uncommon to see someone go for it more than once.
He's also stays on his back for almost an entire round.
Yeah, he's camped there.
Yeah.
But he's not on the back. He's just on that. He's not scored. He's just on that leg position on the back for a while. It was a really cool result here. Next, we had Murad Abdulapov.
Yes.
Defeats Roberto Jimenez via points.
And this was Wesley Jimenez.
Which is the only way you're probably going to beat Jimenez.
He beat him by making him continue.
He got to his back as well.
Yeah.
Which I was really
but I think it's
really impressed
I think
with.
part of it was because Roberto had to start like kind of opening himself up, because if he didn't, he wasn't going to get Murad to do anything. Mm-hmm. And it was like they kind of both had to kind of push the other one, and he realized by doing that, I don't know Murad's background
at all. Yeah, not a guy I'm familiar with. I was impressed, but Jimenez showed his back, and Murad was able to take it, which is something we haven't seen consistently from a lot of the guys in Universal Fighters. Like a lot of times their back taking ability isn't like the like the North American or the Brazilian or the European jiu-jitsu guys. Like it's not, the skill set there isn't the same. And so it was really cool to be able to see him get Roberto's back. I was like, wow, that is uncommon. Roberto gets his back taken like that. It was very impressive. So Team Kasai defeats Team Universal Fighters 4-3. Moves on to the finals. On the third place match, we're going to run through this real quick, then go on to the finals. Team Leon versus Team Universal Fighters. We have Marabak Team defeating Jack Stapleton via decision. Didn't know Jack was out there, but a lot of guard play from Jack. Just not able to get anything going. Marabak takes him down, I think, in the second round for 2 points. And that's where the points are scored. Gianni Grippo defeats Garzamov Tagev via rear triangle armbar,
which is kind of like one of his jams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Grippo's just a monster.
Yeah. And then we have Daniel
Schubert defeating Ibrahim Bilarov via rear naked choke. We have here now. We have Murad again defeating Kaya Rudolph via decision. It was cool to see Kaya again out here. We've seen him in a lot of the Australia events. Yeah. So it was cool to see him again. Murad just beat Jimenez, beats Kaya as well. That was a points victory. We had DeAndre Corbe defeating Zaire Amedov via heel hook. Quick inside heel hook, I think is what it was. It was just bop down, and then DeAndre hits it. We had PJ Barch defeating Rizvanov via rear naked choke. You have a note for Barch here in your notes.
I do. My note is looks beefy.
Yeah, Barch looked. He looked swole. My guy.
Yeah, he does.
He got like thick in his back in a way that Barch is not been like slender for 77, but I don't think about Barch. He's big for the weight class. Yeah, don't get me wrong, because he has some size parity with Varela, and Varela is enormous for the weight class. Yeah. But Barch is never a guy that it has been like a striking, he's huge.
Yeah.
He's big.
In this, he seemed huge.
He seemed way bigger.
And I don't know why.
Could have been a down angle, could have been something, but he looks bigger.
Could have been the outfit.
I'm really curious to see if Barch is starting to compete at like 85, or if he starts to move up as he gets a little older. It would be, I'm curious. Universal Fighters forfeited the final match. Again, they're down 4-2. There is no way to get back there. So it's like your third place anyway. You don't want to have your last guy go out and get injured. I would like to see the match, but it is understandable that, like, hey, there's nothing to gain here, literally nothing to gain except a guy having another match.
Yeah.
Nope, it's a professional event. We don't need to have the match. And that's, again, the big difference between professional events and amateur events is, like, you see those forfeits because why? We're professionals. There's no need for us to have this match because, we've lost. On to the finals. We have Team Williams Elite versus Team Kasai. If you looked at the lineups ahead of time, this is probably what you would have expected to see given just how strong these two teams were. Diego Pato gets slammed by Jason Knolf. Gets disqualified. We talked about it on the earlier event. Talked about it last time.
It's like the second time he gets slammed.
Yep. We've talked about it. That's what happened. Fabricio Andre defeats Dante Leon via decision. This was fun. I was really excited to see this match.
This is Dante Leon playing all the guards.
It really is.
Yeah.
Your note is Dante Leon's guard retention is crazy, which I think that note absolutely sums up the entirety of the match.
Yeah, but it's not something that you generally, when you think about Dante Leon, you don't think about the fact that he has crazy guard retention.
We've talked about it more and more on the show where it's like, I think when we previewed one of the last Dante matches, we made a point to be like, we talk about Dante for like his wrestling, his power, and his missions, but like his guard is insane.
Yeah.
And again, for a guy like Fabricio Andre to not like be able to blow you out of the water, it speaks to how that's how Dante won his world championship in Nogi, was with the guard.
Yeah.
So
did he go against Dante? Went against I'm trying to think. Earlier he went against what's it called? Not Kenta. DeAndre Corbe.
Yeah.
I forgot to say in that match also, DeAndre Corbe hits the most perfect like throw on Dante, like straight to his back.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt it because that's the same throw that I get caught with all the time. Because like you get a single and you don't go around the corner far enough, and they just freaking wing you straight to your back.
Yep.
I feel that. I have that happen to me almost every day.
Yeah. So again, this was an impressive match for Fabricio Andre because I don't think he's as big as Dante. I think Fabricio makes 66.
I don't know.
Dante's not making 66.
They said Dante cuts a ton of weight to make 77.
We know Dante cuts a ton of weight to make 77. I think Fabricio cuts a ton of weight to make 66. I was very impressed with Fabricio Andre's passing. Even him in the wrestling exchange, which we know Fabricio has really good judo, really good wrestling, but Dante also has very serviceable and good wrestling and beats a lot of guys with his wrestling. It was impressive performance for Fabricio Andre here. Next, we had the rematch. Dorian Oliveira versus Dominic Mejia. They're now at the same camp.
Yes, they are.
So this is a rematch of trials. No, sorry. It was Keith versus Dorian in the first trials.
No, but the two of them have won against each other.
I think so.
No, I'm almost positive they have. But it was when Dorian was still at B Team.
Okay, maybe that's what it was.
Because he had still been at B Team before he left.
The commentary mentions that like these guys train with each other, they know each other. These are probably honestly two of their main training partners because you're both two of the smaller guys at Kingsway, was previously New Wave. It would make sense that you get a lot of rounds. You're both trials winners. Like, it makes sense you get a lot of rounds together. This looked like that kind of round.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you both playing a little bit of a different game. Dorian knows how to deal with what you bring to the table. Dominic is trying to counter it, but Dorian knows exactly the area that he needs to fight Dominic here to be able to beat him.
And then in round 3, Dominic just kind of loses all of his gas, and Dorian just puts up 9 points on him, which is the highest scoring round in the entire event.
But again, that makes sense. Your training partners, you know where you can push your guy, push to the edge. Like, and if you play your cards right, you're like, hey man, I can take you here. This is the area where I can probably beat you. There are plenty of guys in your training room that can do things to you that no other competitor can do to you. Why? It's because I know your game. I've watched you develop your game. I've helped you build pieces of your game in the room. Here are the places that I can exploit. We don't see these kind of matches very often. It is really neat to match study these matches. Go back and watch this match specifically because it's a really interesting high-level match between two training partners that obviously train a lot.
Yeah.
Very interesting dynamic here. Next, we had a match we talked about last week a little bit. Roberto Jimenez defeats Giancarlo Bodoni via decision on points. Jimenez looks really good here, man.
Yeah.
Like, you do not beat Bodoni without looking really, really good. I think he gets Bodoni's back at one point.
He hits a duck under and then hits a mat return on Bodoni. and like freaking slams him. And I'm like, holy shit, I didn't know that.
Not a lot of guys are doing that to Giancarlo.
No.
That is just, this is one of the most impressive Roberto Jimenez performances ever. Him and his match versus Roosevelt Souza.
Yeah.
Or like the two Roberto Jimenez matches where I look, I'm like, that dude was on something different in that match. Yeah. Like, Giancarlo didn't look phenomenal in this match, but has looked phenomenal in other pieces of the tournament.
The round 2 and round 3, Roberto got his back in both rounds.
Yeah. Couldn't put him away.
Point. But got his back.
Not a lot of guys are getting on Giancarlo's back, man. There are so many matches I want to see Roberto in. Yeah. And like this is one of them, and very, very impressive.
Yeah. It almost looked like Bodoni was trying to do like the slower man game. And he was trying to do that to Roberto, and Roberto was like, haha, I move around. And he was like moving around, and Bodoni was kind of, I wouldn't say like lumbering, but he was a slow moving.
He got slow. He got outpaced by Jimenez here in that back take. Next one, we had Kaynan Duarte defeating Big Dan Manasoiu.
And at that, when Roberto won that match, Kasai technically won.
Yeah.
The whole event, which is they
have a big celebration there.
They all celebrate, but there's 2 more matches.
But I appreciate they still won the 2 matches. Yeah. We had Kaynan Duarte defeating Big Dan. This was...
it was on their feet, and they were just pushing each other.
And then Big Dan gets a penalty late.
Yeah.
I think for a pull with no guard, with a guard with no pull. Guard with no pull. A pull with no grips.
Yeah.
I think is what it was, but it really didn't matter. It doesn't matter, but it was very like... I would like to see this match with stakes because I think it would be more interesting.
I also would like to see it not after Kaynan just got beat up by...
versus Ruslan. Yeah.
Because I want to say it made Kaynan...
tired him out, probably.
Yeah.
And then you have to fight another enormous guy in Big Dan. Yeah. You're like, hey, man, give me a guy my size. So next we had Izaak Michell defeating Pedro Marinho via decision. Dude, Michelle puts it to Pedro Marinho in a way that we know Michelle can do. I want to see this rematch of who's number 1.
Yeah.
This is the match I want to see. Michelle clearly beat Pedro Marinho here, and I was wildly impressed with how Michelle looked in this tournament.
Yeah, it was Michelle also getting takedowns without putting his head in trouble.
Yes.
Dude,
not a lot of guys take down Marinho, and Michelle was taking down Marinho, not at will, but with an ease that not a lot of people we see are able to take down Marinho at all. Like more than once in a match, which is uncommon.
Yeah.
Next, we had Felipe Machado, last match of the tournament. We had Felipe Machado defeating Edwin Junior Casio via points. Ends it out. It doesn't really matter for the match. Again, speaks to how good Felipe Machado is. Stays away from what Juni's doing.
Juni stays on his feet the whole time, which was not something that I expected to see in a Juni match.
It doesn't,
but I guess because it's at that point you've already kind of won, you can kind of see what you want to do.
You can do really whatever you want to. Yeah. And so, there's no reason not to do something to whoever you want to. Yeah. So, Team Kasai wins over Team Williams Elite 5-2, and they are the 2025 champions for the league finals. It was a really cool event. Go watch the event on YouTube. It's free. It's like 17 hours long, but you can tab through it relatively quickly. You can watch specific matches. Go look in the video. It was great. I really, really enjoyed it. I'm excited. We will definitely be covering AIGA in the future. The level of talent that this event brought was absolutely phenomenal. So, watch it. All right, Miranda. That is a long show. I'm gonna get the dog back.
Yep.
Because he's getting wiggly. He needs to go outside.
And we have in a couple weeks we have BJJ Stars and we have Who's Number 1.
Yep. We're still playing it by ear for how if we're gonna cover half of Who's Number 1 at BJJ Stars next week, or exactly if we're gonna cover Fight to Win Hawaii, or exactly what we're gonna do next week's show. We might do a half preview.
Something may blow up too between now and then.
Which can happen all the time. So next week's show is up in the air for what we are previewing. Most likely will be a preview. And then the following week we'll do the rest of the preview for BJ Stars and Who's Number 1. And that does it, Miranda. Anything fun going on for you this week?
I'm going to go to a comedy show on what's it called?
Nice.
On Wednesday.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be awesome.
It'll be interesting. It's, shit. Dude's name just fell out of my head. I should know this because I'm going to go see him.
That is something you should probably know.
Didn't buy the tickets, so my brain.
But we're also in the outro of the podcast.
Theo Vaughn.
Okay.
In Philly.
Yeah.
So it'll be
Nice.
fun.
That makes me laugh. So
Yeah,
yep.
he's a weirdo.
I'm gonna
He's fun times.
I am gonna replace the vanity in my bathroom because I opened it
You're very adult.
I opened
adulting.
it on 4th of July and a bunch of water came out and I went, awesome, this is my day now. And then the pipes cracked and it's a whole thing. So I'm gonna do that now. And that's it. Somewhere, anything else out?
Nope, that's it.
All right. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, the co-host.
Miranda.
And we are the Grappling Runs, and that's what it is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
Let us know.
reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.